There are moments in life when everything we thought was secure starts to unravel, when the dreams we nurtured, the plans we crafted, and the identity we clung to slip through our fingers. It's in those moments we feel undone, shattered by circumstances we didn't foresee and outcomes we can't control. But let me remind you, being undone is not your end, it's your beginning. Life has a way of presenting us with detours and unexpected challenges. We often dream of a perfectly smooth path to success, love, or fulfillment, but reality has its own twists and turns. It's easy to view imperfections and setbacks as failures or signs that we're not enough. However, what if those very imperfections are the foundation upon which your greatest purpose is built? Every scar tells a story. Every mistake holds a lesson. Every setback is an invitation to grow. The truth is, perfection isn't a prerequisite for greatness. It's your ability to navigate through adversity, learn from your experiences, and rise with a renewed sense of strength that defines your journey. The very things you're tempted to hide or be ashamed of may hold the power to unlock someone else's healing. About it, how often are you inspired by someone who's never faced a challenge? It's usually the people who have walked through fire and come out refined that leave the deepest impact on us. Why? Because they remind us that beauty can come from ashes, that transformation doesn't require perfection, just courage. So stop waiting to have it all together before you step into your calling. Stop thinking you need a flawless resume, a perfect past, or a polished image to be effective. God can use your story as it is, mess and all. In fact, your willingness to be authentic about your imperfections often becomes the very thing that draws people to you and reveals His power through you. When you embrace your setbacks as part of your purpose, you learn to see rejection as redirection. You realize that delays aren't denials, but divine appointments designed to prepare you for what's ahead. The very thing you thought would disqualify you is often what uniquely qualifies you to make a difference in someone else's life. Remember, it's not about what happened to you, but how you choose to respond. Choose to grow, to heal, to forgive, and to believe again. Choose to lean into grace, knowing that your value isn't determined by your performance, but by the simple truth that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Embracing your imperfections means giving yourself permission to be a work in progress. It means knowing that you can still show up even when you're not perfect. It means understanding that your setbacks are simply setups for your next level. Today, I encourage you to look at the areas of your life that you've labeled as mistakes or failures and ask yourself, how can this serve my purpose? You might be surprised to find that your greatest strength is hidden in what once made you feel weak. Embrace your story, all of it, because it's leading you to something greater than you can imagine. And as you walk forward, imperfect but bold, remember that your imperfections aren't holding you back. They're propelling you toward your destiny. Step into it, scars and all, because you are exactly where you need to be for what's next. Letting go is one of the hardest things we're called to do in life. We often cling tightly to the version of ourselves that we've grown familiar with, the person shaped by past experiences, relationships, and expectations. But holding on to who you were can keep you from stepping into who you're meant to be. Healing begins when you release what no longer serves you, even when it feels safe or comfortable. It's natural to build an identity around your past, especially when you face struggles or trauma. Maybe you've defined yourself by your mistakes, thinking they disqualify you from a better future. Or perhaps you've achieved a certain level of success and fear that letting go of that identity will leave you without direction. Whatever your story, healing requires shedding those labels and limitations. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting where you've come from. It means no longer allowing it to dictate where you're going. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones, each one representing shame, fear, regret, or resentment. As long as you carry that weight, moving forward becomes exhausting, if not impossible. But when you start removing those stones, you create space for something new. Peace, joy, purpose, and healing. Transformation requires courage. It means being willing to face the pain you've buried and surrendering the desire to control the outcome. But here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to do it alone. Healing isn't about being strong enough to fix yourself. It's about being humble enough to invite grace into the places where you're hurting. Letting go of who you were also means embracing uncertainty. When you release the familiar, you step into a space where faith becomes your compass. And though the unknown can feel intimidating, it's often where God does his most transformative work. He takes the broken pieces of your past and turns them into a masterpiece that only he could envision. Consider a seed planted in the ground. To the naked eye, it looks like it's buried, but in reality, it's being prepared to bloom. The darkness and pressure are not its death, they are part of its becoming. The same is true for you. Letting go may feel like an ending, but it's actually the beginning of your flourishing. Don't be afraid to mourn the version of yourself you're leaving behind. Growth often involves grieving what was, even when it no longer serves you. But know that the future ahead is worth every tear and every step of faith. Healing is a journey, not a destination. And it begins when you decide to release the grip on your past self and open your hands to receive what God has for you now. Who you were is part of your story, but it's not the final chapter. There's more, and it's calling you forward. So today I challenge you, let go. Trust that as you do, healing will find you, and you'll step into a version of yourself that you never imagined. Stronger, wiser, and free. Transformation is a beautiful, powerful journey, but it doesn't come without a cost. It requires courage to step away from the familiar and venture into the unknown. It demands vulnerability to confront your deepest fears and insecurities. But here's the truth. You cannot become who you're meant to be without being willing to face the discomfort of change. Courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear, but real courage is stepping forward even when your knees are trembling. It's saying yes to growth even when you're unsure of where the path will lead. The process of transformation will ask you to do things that may feel uncomfortable. Walking away from toxic relationships, changing unhealthy habits, or stepping into opportunities that seem too big for you. But courage reminds you that you're stronger than your doubts and capable of much more than you believe. Yet courage alone isn't enough. Transformation also requires vulnerability. And if we're honest, vulnerability can feel like weakness. Society often teaches us to put on a brave face, hide our struggles, and present a picture-perfect version of ourselves to the world. But true transformation happens when you allow yourself to be seen fully, flaws and all. Vulnerability isn't about sharing your every thought with everyone. It's about being honest with yourself and with the right people. It's about admitting when you need help, acknowledging when you've made mistakes, and being open to learning from them. When you embrace vulnerability, you create space for authentic connection and genuine growth. Think about the story of a butterfly. Before it takes flight, it must first go through the difficult process of breaking out of its cocoon. In that confined space, the butterfly doesn't look beautiful. It's messy and incomplete. But it's in the struggle of breaking free that its wings gain the strength they need to soar. Transformation for you will feel the same way. It might be messy, uncomfortable, and even painful, but it's preparing you for greater things. The world may tell you to hide your struggles, but God uses those very struggles to shape you. He doesn't require perfection for transformation. He requires openness. He requires a heart that says, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm willing to be molded. It takes courage to say, I'm ready for something new, and vulnerability to admit, I need help along the way. But when you marry these two forces, transformation becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. So today, I challenge you to be brave. Step into the unknown with courage, knowing that even if you stumble, you're still moving forward, and be vulnerable enough to let others see your journey, because your story might just be the very thing that inspires someone else to pursue their own transformation. Trust the process even when it feels uncertain. Because on the other side of courage and vulnerability lies a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and more radiant than you ever imagined. And that version is worth every step of the journey. Life has a way of bringing us to moments that feel like everything is falling apart. Dreams unravel, relationships break, and plans collapse. In those moments, it's easy to believe that you're being torn down with no hope of restoration. But here's the truth. What feels like undoing is often the very pathway to your greatest breakthrough. Sometimes God allows things to fall apart so that He can rebuild them in a way that aligns with His purpose for your life. The life you thought you wanted may not have been big enough to contain the person you are becoming. So when things begin to unravel, it's not because you've been forgotten, it's because you're being prepared. In the undoing, you're stripped of the things that no longer serve your growth. Old mindsets, unhealthy habits, toxic relationships, and limiting beliefs are exposed and removed. This process is rarely comfortable, but it's necessary. A seed must be buried and break open before it can bloom. In the same way, your undoing is the fertile ground for something new and beautiful to take root. But let's be honest, when you're in the middle of being undone, it doesn't feel purposeful, it feels painful. And that's okay, you're allowed to feel the weight of it. You're allowed to grieve what was, but don't confuse the pain of transition with the permanence of failure. The breaking is not the end, it's the beginning of your transformation. Breakthrough often looks messy before it looks miraculous. Think of a caterpillar in a cocoon. From the outside, it looks confined and broken down, but on the inside, transformation is taking place. When it emerges, it no longer crawls, it soars. The same is true for you. What feels like undoing is creating space for you to rise into the fullness of your purpose. The key is to trust the process even when you can't see the outcome. Keep moving forward even when it feels like you're walking through a storm. Keep believing even when doubt whispers that it's over. Because on the other side of the undoing is a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your purpose. And don't forget, breakthrough isn't just for you. The lessons you learn, the strength you gain, and the wisdom you acquire will ripple out to impact those around you. Your story of rising from the ashes will become a beacon of hope for someone else facing their own undoing. So if you're in a season where life feels like it's unraveling, take heart. You're not being destroyed, you're being redefined. The pieces that are falling away were never meant to stay. Trust that God is doing a new thing, even if you can't see it yet. Breakthrough is on the other side of this undoing, and when it comes, you'll look back and realize that the very thing you thought was breaking you was actually making you whole. Stay the course. You're being prepared for something greater than you can imagine.